Yesterday my daughter asked me, "Mom, why does Dad always say you're a pathetic loser?" That's when it hit me like a truck. My kids think this is normal. They've been hearing this every single day for 3 years now. I'm sitting here at 2 a.m. Can't sleep, trying to figure out when my life became this mess. My husband has been systematically tearing me down in front of our 2 kids, and I just realized how deep this rabbit hole goes. Every morning starts the same way. He finds something wrong with breakfast, calls me useless, and the kids just sit there eating their cereal like it's background noise. When I can't find his keys, he tells them, "Your mother is hopeless, can't even keep track of simple things." When I burn dinner slightly, it's, "See kids, this is what failure looks like." The worst part? They're starting to believe it. My son, who's 8, rolled his eyes at me yesterday when I reminded him to brush his teeth. He said, "Whatever, you don't know anything anyway." My daughter, only 6, corrected me in front of her friend's mom at pickup, saying, "My dad says you're not smart enough to help with homework." I wanted to disappear into the ground. Started small 3 years ago. Little comments here and there that I brushed off as stress from work. But then it escalated. Now he makes sure to point out every mistake I make, every imperfection, every moment where I'm not meeting his impossible standards. And he does it all in front of them. When I spill coffee, when I'm running late, when I forget to buy his favorite yogurt, everything becomes ammunition to prove to our children that their mother is incompetent. I work part-time from home doing administrative stuff, nothing glamorous, but it helps with bills. He makes more money and never lets me forget it. "Your mother contributes nothing meaningful to this family," he told them last week when I was proud of finishing a big project. I had worked for weeks on organizing a filing system that saved the company thousands, but all he saw was an opportunity to diminish me. The breaking point came during dinner 2 nights ago. I had made their favorite spaghetti and meatballs, spent the whole afternoon cooking from scratch. One meatball fell off my daughter's fork onto the floor. Before I could even reach for paper towels, he launched into his usual routine. "Look at that, kids. Your mother can't even cook properly. The meatballs are falling apart because she doesn't know what she's doing. This is why we can't have nice things." Both kids nodded along. My son even added, "Yeah, Mom's cooking is usually messy." I felt something break inside me at that moment. These are the children I carried for 9 months each, the ones I stayed up with during countless sleepless nights, the ones I've sacrificed everything for, and they're agreeing that I'm worthless. Update 1. Thank you all for the reality check. I needed to hear that this isn't normal, even though part of me already knew. Your comments gave me the courage to start documenting everything. I've been writing down every incident, every cruel comment, every time he undermines me in front of the kids. Last week I decided to test something. I started paying closer attention to how he treats me when the children aren't around versus when they are. The difference is staggering. When it's just us, he's generally indifferent, not nice, but not actively cruel either. But the moment the kids walk into the room, it's like a switch flips. He becomes this character whose entire purpose is to prove that I'm inadequate. I confronted him about it Thursday night after the kids went to bed. I told him I noticed the pattern and asked why he felt the need to constantly criticize me in front of them. His response chilled me to the bone. "Someone needs to teach them not to end up like you. Would you rather they think mediocrity is acceptable?" The next morning proved my theory completely. At breakfast, I served pancakes that were slightly uneven. Some were a bit thicker than others. The kids started eating happily, talking about their plans for the day. Then he walked in, took one look at the pancakes, and announced loud enough for both children to hear, "Well, looks like Mom's cooking skills haven't improved. Kids, this is why it's important to learn to do things properly the first time." My daughter immediately stopped eating and pushed her plate away, suddenly self-conscious about enjoying the imperfect pancakes. My son made a comment about how restaurant pancakes are better anyway. I watched my children's joy dissolve in real time because their father needed to score points against me. But here's where it gets interesting and honestly weird. Later that same day, I was in the garage organizing some boxes when I overheard him on the phone with his brother. He was bragging about what a great mother I am, how I keep everything together, how the kids are lucky to have me. I stood there confused, wondering if I was losing my mind. Then his brother said something I couldn't quite catch, and my husband's response made everything click into place. "Yeah, well, they need to see that standards matter. Can't have them thinking average is good enough. Building character and all that." He's not just randomly cruel. He's deliberately trying to make our children see me as less than, as someone not to aspire to be like. He's systematically destroying their respect for me as some twisted parenting strategy. I've been researching quietly, reaching out to some old friends trying to figure out my options. The scary part is realizing how isolated I've become. Most of my friendships faded away over the past few years, and I'm starting to see that wasn't accidental either. Hard to maintain relationships when you're constantly being told you're embarrassing or not worth people's time. Update 2. Everything changed this past weekend, but not in any way I could have predicted. Friday night, my daughter came down with a stomach bug. She was throwing up, running a fever, the whole works. I was up all night with her, changing sheets, giving her small sips of water, just doing what moms do. My husband slept through most of it, said he had an important meeting the next day and couldn't afford to be tired. Saturday morning, she was feeling a little better but still weak. I was exhausted from being up all night, running on maybe 2 hours of sleep. I made breakfast for everyone, including her some plain toast since that's all she could keep down. My husband took one look at the kitchen, which yes, was messier than usual because I'd been focused on a sick child all night, and started in on me. Look at this disaster. Kids, see what happens when your mother doesn't plan ahead? Now we're all living in chaos because she can't manage her time properly. He kept going, really laying it on thick about how a competent person would have kept everything under control even with a sick child. But something unexpected happened. My son, my 8-year-old who had been absorbing these messages for years, suddenly spoke up. Dad, Mom was taking care of sister all night. She didn't sleep at all. The room went quiet. My husband looked surprised. This wasn't part of his usual script. He tried to recover. Well, that's what parents do. But that doesn't excuse not maintaining basic standards. Then my daughter, weak as she was, said something that broke my heart and gave me hope at the same time. Daddy, Mama made me feel better when I was scared. She stayed with me and sang songs and made the throwing up not so scary. For the first time in 3 years, I saw a crack in his armor. For just a moment, he looked uncomfortable. Like maybe he realized that his children had witnessed something that contradicted his narrative about me being worthless. That afternoon, while he was out running errands, something amazing happened. Both kids came into the kitchen where I was cleaning up. My son said, "Mom, I think Daddy is wrong about you sometimes." My daughter nodded and added, "You're not pathetic. You make me feel safe." I started crying right there, and they both hugged me. For the first time in so long, I felt like their mother again, not just the family disappointment their father portrayed me as. But the real turning point came Sunday. I had spent Saturday night thinking about everything, the patterns, the isolation, the slow erosion of my relationship with my children. I made a decision that scared me but felt necessary. Sunday morning, I sat both kids down and had an age-appropriate conversation about respect and kindness in families. I didn't badmouth their father, but I explained that calling people names or making them feel bad about themselves isn't okay, even if someone else is doing it. I told them that everyone makes mistakes, including moms, but that doesn't make them worthless people. When their father came down and started his usual routine about my subpar coffee, my son said, "Dad, that's not kind." My daughter chimed in with, "Yeah, Mama's feelings get hurt." The look on his face was something I'll never forget. Confusion, anger, and maybe for the first time a tiny bit of shame. He tried to explain that he was just being honest and teaching them standards, but it fell flat. The kids weren't buying it anymore. Final update. I'm writing this from my sister's guest room. It's been 2 months since my last update, and my life has completely transformed in ways I never expected. After that weekend when the kids started defending me, things at home became incredibly tense. My husband doubled down on his behavior, becoming even more critical and harsh. But something had shifted in my children. They began questioning him, protecting me, and showing me affection in ways they hadn't in years. The final straw came during a particularly brutal dinner where he spent 20 minutes dissecting everything wrong with the meal I'd prepared. But instead of sitting silently like before, my daughter looked at him and said, "Daddy, why are you being so mean to Mama?" When he tried to explain that he was helping me improve, my son said, "It doesn't look like helping. It looks like being mean." That night, he accused me of turning the children against him and poisoning their minds. The irony wasn't lost on me. He was angry that his own children were showing me basic human decency. I started making plans quietly. Reached out to my sister, who I hadn't talked to properly in years. She was shocked by what I told her and immediately offered help. Contacted a few old friends who welcomed me back with open arms, making me realize how much I'd missed having people in my corner. The day I decided to leave, I sat the kids down and explained that we were going to stay with their aunt for a while. I expected tears, resistance, questions about their father. Instead, my 8-year-old said, "Will Daddy stop calling you names there?" When I said yes, my daughter clapped her hands and said, "Good. I don't like when he makes you sad. We've been here for 6 weeks now." My husband calls constantly, alternating between rage and attempts at manipulation. He's told the kids I'm being dramatic and breaking up the family over nothing. But they're smart kids. They remember the daily cruelty, the constant criticism, the way their mother's face would crumple every time he spoke to her. The most amazing thing is watching my children rediscover who I actually am. Without his constant narrative of my inadequacy playing in the background, they're seeing me clearly for the first time in years. My daughter asks me to help with her homework again. My son tells me about his day and actually listens to my advice. They laugh at my jokes and don't apologize for enjoying my cooking. I'm working full-time now, something I hadn't done since before the kids were born. It's challenging, but I'm remembering skills and confidence I thought I'd lost forever. My sister helps with childcare, and we're building a support system that doesn't involve walking on eggshells or accepting emotional abuse as the price of keeping the peace. The divorce papers were filed last week. I'm not going to pretend it's easy financially, emotionally, or logistically. But for the first time in 3 years, my children see me as their mother, not as their father's favorite punching bag. They're learning that love doesn't come with a constant stream of criticism, and that families can be kind to each other. My daughter asked me yesterday if I was happy now. When I said yes, she said, "Good. You smile more now, and you don't look scared anymore." I never realized how much fear I'd been carrying until it was gone. Fear of his next criticism, fear of failing his impossible standards, fear of my children losing respect for me. Now I wake up each morning knowing that whatever challenges the day brings, I won't have to face them while someone systematically tears down my self-worth in front of the people I love most. It's not the ending I planned when I got married and had children, but it's the beginning of something better for me and for them. My kids are learning that they deserve to be treated with kindness and respect, and that they should never accept anything less. That's a lesson worth fighting for.